The following is the 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning service given on July 30th, 1978 at the Unity Village Chapel.
We are truly prospered by Janet Bowser's talents. She is really quite an artist. That's an original Bowser, in case you didn't recognize it. This morning we're continuing our many lessons with a lesson in prosperity. And of course, when we talk about prosperity, we realize that prosperity means many things to many people. We live in an abundant universe of all good. But when we think about prosperity and what it means to different people, I think about my oldest daughter. When my oldest daughter was about 2 to 3 years old, somewhere in that category, she wasn't very high, and we had spent the day shopping, and we'd been to the bakery, and we had picked out something that was very special for her. When we returned home, I had put all the groceries in the kitchen on the table, and she could just barely reach the table. She wasn't very large. But she was too quiet. So I went into the kitchen to see what had happened, and there she sat on the floor with the Martha Washington cream pie that we had purchased at the store, and as fast as she could, she was stuffing Martha Washington's cream pie into her mouth. And I looked at her, and she turned with those big blue eyes and looked up at me and said, "I'm God's perfect child." She had learned her lesson early and well in life. She truly was God's perfect child. She was enjoying substance in the form of the pie very zealously that morning. And I guess we have to realize when we think about prosperity that a wise and loving Father did provide for all of our needs, no matter what they may be, through substance, this one idea of infinite living substance. In his book, Prosperity, Charles Fillmore covers this subject so thoroughly, and if you haven't read it, it's a marvelous book to read. But he has the opening statements in the foreword which tell this idea that the basic premise of prosperity has to be that a wise and competent Creator provided for the needs of His creation in our universe with one primal substance that would be transformable into the manifest answer for all the needs of His creation. Now that's kind of a mouthful when you think about it, that God, the Creator, created one primal substance which was transformable to meet the needs, any need, any desire, any activity of His creation. So that everything that is a manifestation of that one primal substance. The words that I am speaking, the thoughts that I am thinking, the body that I am manifesting, the world that we are living in. All manifestations of one primal substance. And because there was a need for this substance to become manifest in order for the creation to express and to be experienced, then that substance responds to one thing, the mind of the creation. The mind of the creation. So the substance then is shaped by the thoughts of the creation. In other words, we've been talking about all along about this law of mind action, this idea of the thoughts that we are holding in our mind producing after their kind in our world. And what is it that they are producing? The shape or formed substance, this one primal essence, this mind energy that is God, God's substance. Now in Keep It True Lent, page 102, Charles Fillmore further addresses this idea about the thoughts and their relationship to manifestation when he's talking about money. Now, you could apply this to any idea concerning the manifest realm. But he says this concerning money. Watch your thoughts when you are handling your money, because your money is attached through your mind to the one source of all substance and all money. When you think of your money, which is visible, as something directly attached to an invisible source that is giving or withholding according to your thought, you have the key to all riches and the reason for all lack. The key to all riches and the reason for all lack lies in the recognition that your thoughts are what are determining the manifestation of substance in the world. This spiritual substance can be called, I guess is a better way to put it, can be called spiritual energy, unformed mind essence. These are phrases that Charles Fillmore used for spiritual substance at all times. Mind essence, unformed spiritual energy. And as we know, our whole universe is a living, moving, radiating activity of this one radiant energy, this one essence, this one pure essence. And we know that this essence is what we call a divine idea in the mind of God. And all divine ideas have infinite possibilities of expression. That's what determines a divine idea. When you go back to a source idea, and that idea explodes into infinite possibilities of expression, then you know you have reached a divine idea. And the divine idea of substance is just such an idea, for it explodes into many, many manifest forms. It can be used for infinite things, things that are so far beyond our comprehension at this particular time that we can't even give them names. But we do know that everything that has come forth is a manifestation of this idea of substance. Now, an idea in God's mind is quite different from a concept formed in our mind. Concepts are formed ideas. Concepts are formed ideas. Ideas have pure potential and infinite possibility. So back up all material forms supporting it, supporting us, supporting our world, is this infinite substance of God. And our task is to make right contact with that spiritual energy, with that pure essence of being, with that infinite flow of substance. Our affirmation was, God is a mighty stream of substance, and I am its channel of expression. And so our idea, our thought work then, is to bring our thoughts into alignment, into perfect alignment with that stream and with that flow of infinite substance. It is always, everywhere present at all times. There is no absence of substance in our universe. It is instantly, constantly, and always available. Everywhere present. It can never be depleted, for it is all that there is. It has no choice but to give, because that is its very nature. It cannot say no, because it is the isness of our universe. Then we think about the idea of formed substance, which we call matter. Now, there is a distinct difference between what the average person is calling substance and what we do refer to as substance in unity. Substance is pure energy. When that substance is formed by thought and translated into manifest form, then we call it matter. Matter is formed substance. This table is formed substance. This body of mine is formed substance. My words are formed substance, formed energy, radiating through this atmosphere and being picked up by another form of substance, formed substance, your ear, and then going through this whole chemical process which we call brain, which is another form of substance. Mind itself, mind that we use, our mind is a form of this radiant living energy, a different realm of it, a different manifestation, an invisible manifestation, yet not pure substance which stands behind it. So if we think about substance then as matter as being formed substance, then we need to recognize that we can, through our thoughts, create or bring forth into manifestation anything that we desire. And if we have brought forth something that we do not desire, then what do? We change the thought limitation. We change the shape and form which we have given the substance and release it back into pure energy and reshape and reform it in the way that we desire to see it come forth. Why then do we seem to have lack in our world? The only lack in our world is lack of appropriation. The only lack is lack of appropriation. And the reasons that we lack the ability to appropriate is because of thought conditioning. We have been conditioned by the thoughts of the world. In other words, we have taken our direction from the outer. We have looked at the realm of effects. We have looked at the realm of formed substance, that is matter. We have taken that as our guide, rather than realizing that behind that formed substance stands this infinite source of all good that is accessible to us, through us, from within us, and all about us at all times, through the activity of mind. These error thoughts take different forms, and we're going to talk about a few of them. The very first error thought that we can deal with is the idea of possessions. My possessions. Charles Fillmore directly talks to this when he calls it the difference between mine to keep and mine to use. Mine to keep and mine to use. There's a very basic difference between the idea of using infinite substance and holding on to it because we feel it's the only one that we're ever going to get, that there'll never be another one. You know, there are a lot of ideas which block the flow of substance, and one of them that makes up what we call a poverty consciousness, and a poverty consciousness is one which has blocked the flow, which has stood between the manifest realm and this infinite substance which is available to us. And one of them is this idea of only one. And where do we get this idea? Boy, when I was a kid, you better take care of that, Martha. It's the only one you're going to get. I think enough of you have heard that one. Or we better take really, there isn't enough to go around, so you better hold on to the one you have. We have come under the tyranny, not only in prosperity, but in all realms of what I call the tyranny of the one. There's only one answer. There's only one person. There's only one thing available that can fulfill the desires of my heart. And I'll only have that one. My goodness, that wasn't God's idea. All you have to do is look around you. He had infinite possibilities of expression, and he created an infinite universe. And he created an infinite number of people to fulfill the desires of our hearts. There is not just one. There are many who can fulfill the desires of our heart. Another word that comes in at this time is this idea of the fact that we don't deserve. That we don't deserve. And this idea of having the idea that we can't have one because we are, quote, too bad. We're not good enough to have the good that we desire. Also, the fact that we must hold on to it carries forth another idea of being possessed by our possessions. And I think this is a story that all of you are so familiar with, of the rich young ruler who wanted to follow Jesus. And Jesus asked him to give up, his all that he had and to follow him. But he couldn't do it. Why? Because Jesus knew that he was possessed of his possessions. And yet we know that it was not an absolute requirement to be a follower of the way, to give up all that you had. Because what did Peter, James do when, it was Peter and Andrew do immediately when Jesus was away? They went back to their fishing boats. They were fishermen. They owned a fishing fleet, so to speak. And in those days, that was quite a possession. But they were not required to give it up. And even Judas, as you remember, what was his purpose? Judas was the money keeper. He was the one who kept the bag of money. So Jesus didn't say that you couldn't have possessions. He did not want you to be possessed by your possessions, to be in bondage to them. I think there are a couple of classic stories that come to my mind when I think about this idea of being possessed by your possessions. And one of them is a story that Peace Pilgrim, whom many of you may know, tells about a friend of hers. Now, Peace is a person who is not possessed of possessions, because she has been walking for hundreds of thousands of miles for peace, and she wears a tunic. And in the tunic, she carries a toothbrush, some stamps, a notepad, and I forget, there's a bar of soap. That was the other thing. And that's all she carries. That's all she carries. And she eats when she is fed. She sleeps when she finds habitation, place for sleeping. And so Peace is quite a person who is non-possessed by possessions. But I don't think that's quite for all of us. But there is this story that she tells about this friend who was working very diligently at this particular job, and her husband had passed on, so she thought she was going to have to take an additional job. She worked all of these long hours to keep herself going, and yet she was going to have to take another job, and she was already worn out. And Peace said to her, she said, "Why is it that you have to work on this second job?" And the woman said, "Well, I have this house that I live in." And Peace says, "Well, why don't you sell the house and move into an apartment, a small apartment that you can take care of?" And the woman said, "But I can't do that. I have 8 rooms of furniture. What would I do?" So she was working to maintain 8 rooms of furniture. How many of us work to maintain something that we really don't need? Are we working to be free to express and to experience that which is our good, or are we working to maintain a certain status, a certain outpicturing? It's all right to have those things to use, but if we are in bondage to them, if we are possessed by them, then we are not free. And if we are not free, then we're not experiencing and expressing the goodness of God that we were intended to express. I had a very close friend who was getting ready to move overseas. And she and I both were natives of, I was born in Arkansas and raised in Missouri, but we both grew up in St. Louis. And she was getting ready to move overseas, and when she was getting ready to pack her belongings, we found one thing happening. I went over one day, and there she sat in the middle of the floor, just crying, and the tears were rolling down her cheeks. And I said, Miriam, what's the matter? And she says, I can't throw anything away. She says, yet I know I have to. I cannot take all these things with me. And I said, why can't you throw anything away? And we sat and we began to talk. And we began to explore the reasons why she couldn't throw anything away. And she had grown up in a part of St. Louis where people her parents had come from the old country. And they had grown up in a sense of lack and limitation. And they were in the habit of saving everything. Their attic was chucked to the gunnels with everything. Their basement was packed in every corner with everything. The drawers, every space in the house was always packed with everything, because they had what is known as a fear consciousness. They were afraid that they would not get another one. So they kept holding on, even though most of the things had long since lost their right use. And here was Miriam, still feeling this old pattern within her. Her inability to let go of anything, because as a child she had been conditioned with this idea of not letting go. So we sat, and I says, what can I do for you? I says, I'm a great thrower away. I am a great eliminator. It's one of my favorite tasks. And so the two of us went to work, and I began to help her make decisions. And I said, but wait a minute. I'm a believer in putting things into circulation, the law of circulation that Ernest Wilson talks about. So this was a few years back before garage sales were so all important in our society in an accepted form of bartering. And we had a garage sale. I says, we'll have a garage sale and we'll put everything out there. And she got excited. She got excited about the idea of putting things into circulation, and between the two of us, within a number of days, we had gotten all the things either into the trash barrel where they belonged or into the garage where they were saleable. And she came through that whole thing with a change in attitude. Once she began to let go, once she began to release, once she began to put things back into circulation, she began to free herself, and she was happier than I had seen her in years. And she went overseas with a new spirit, a new expression, and with enough money from the garage sale to purchase the things that she would need when she got there. So it increased her prosperity, and it increased the prosperity for all people. So we can work with this idea of mind to keep. Watch it. Use the idea of mind to use. Do not be possessed by your possession. Another idea that we need to deal with is this idea of faith. Investing our energy. Investing this living substance, this mind essence, how we invest it. You know, many people invest their substance, their faith, in God, and they manifest plenty. They manifest abundance. But many of us invest this living energy in fear, in lack, in limitation, in ideas which are literally non-existence. I like to talk about this idea as being investing your living energy in a rat hole. And a rat hole goes down, and no matter how much you pour into it, it seems like a bottomless pit, that it just keeps going and going and going. And literally, it is a bottomless pit. Lack is a bottomless pit. There is no way that you can fill an unreality with living substance. There is no way that you can do it. I had another friend in one of our farmer ministries who was very ill, and she was in the hospital, and I went to see her, and she had pretty much decided that she was going to give up this world, that she was not going to make it. And I began to talk about this to her, and as we were conversing, I kept saying to her, Miriam, what you're doing, by the way, her name was Miriam too, that's kind of coincidental. I hadn't realized that until I started telling this story. But her name was Miriam also, and she was involved in this idea of letting go. She was investing all of her energy in the idea of disease, death, transition, all of these things which were bottomless pits. And I said to her, Miriam, you're investing your living energy in lack. And lack is a rat hole in which you can never fill. And she looked at me and she said, you mean I'm investing my thought energy in something that is not going to prosper me in any way? Those weren't exact words, but that was the essence of it. And I said, yes. And she looked up and she said, I'll not do that. Well, I'd like to tell you the story because she is a remarkable person. Very shortly thereafter, she made it to the 1970 Unity Convention. She had been told all her life that she couldn't swim in water because of a bodily condition that she had been born with, and very shortly after that she was swimming. She was beginning to do all of the things. She had a whole new life going before her because she decided that day to choose life and to invest all of her living energy in life ideas, and she was prospered in health of body, peace of mind, and all of the energy that she needed to do and to accomplish all the things that need to be accomplished by her. So she learned to invest this living substance of God correctly. So what are some of the ways then that we can use this substance correctly? Well, there are definite steps we can take. And the first one is to have a desire. And we recognize that desire and that need as a cup that we put up for substance to fill. In other words, this is the thought limitation, a desire of our heart that we put up for substance to fill. I kind of was rather glad about this idea of recognizing that you have to have a desire for something, because I've had a desire for something for quite some time. And I happened to be going to Ortega's, and Ortega's is a shop here locally that carries Indian artifacts, and as many of you know, I'm a meditation buff, and one of the things I was looking for was a large God's eye. That's one of those yarn-made symbols which is used for concentrating in meditation. So Ortega's was having a half-price sale, and I thought, well, gee, I'll just go by and see if I can find one. And when I went up to Ortega's, I asked about the God's eye, and all they had were some very small ones and not what I wanted. Well, I've always loved coral. I've always loved coral, and have always had a desire to have coral. Well, I'm not into Indian jewelry, but there at Ortega's was this beautiful branch coral. And I said, wow, is the coral on half price also? And she said, yes. And I looked at it and I said, and how much is half price? And she said, oh, and she told me the price, and I said, oh, that's within reason. And so this morning I'm wearing my prosperity demonstration, which is branch coral, which I dearly love. But being open and having a desire and following your guidance will bring you that desire at the right price, at the right time, and in the right way. Another idea that we need to follow in demonstrating prosperity is the idea of cleansing, releasing, letting go, getting rid of those thought forms that are blocking the good we desire. And often this has to take the form first of changing the thoughts in our mind, but it can also be stimulated by cleaning out and letting go of all of the clutter in your life. And you'll be surprised the good that will come to you. I've been through prosperity classes, and a young lady from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who had been through many prosperity classes, called me the other night and said, "You know, I tried it again, and I didn't think that I could possibly find anything, but I started cleaning out drawers, in preparation for prosperity." And she said, there it was again, things which I had tucked away that prospered me. She found so much money tucked in a purse somewhere. I have to tell you that one day I was cleaning out, and I thought, gee, I better clean out my suitcase. I had thrown a lot of things in it, and this was about 6 months ago. And I went in and opened the side zipper pocket, and when I cleaned up and cleaned it out, there I discovered some traveler's checks, which I had completely forgotten, which I had tucked away in the zipper bag for when I was traveling. And there they were, ready to prosper me when I needed them. You need to clean your thoughts up, to release those old thoughts. But remember, your thoughts have become manifest as your world. So if you are surrounded by clutter, think about your thoughts that are maintaining that clutter and begin to shape up in the outside as well as in the inside. Another thing we can do is to establish a partnership with God. Put God first in your life. Put God first in your life through giving, caring, sharing. You will establish a continuous flow when you give your thought first to God and then give of yourself, of your substance, of your time, of your energy as you are directed. There's a gentleman called Taylor who decided that he was going into the clothing business. And when he went into the clothing business, he believed in putting God first. So he took God on as a partner. Now, he didn't name his business Taylor and Lord. He named his business Lord and Taylor. And any of you who know Lord and Taylor, the clothing establishment, know that he prospered. But he put God first in everything that he did. If you stand with the truth that God is the source of your supply, if you recognize that there is this infinite stream of substance everywhere present that is shaped and formed by your thought, that you came into this world at whatever age you are now, you arrived here with all of the substance you will ever need. All of the substance you will ever need. So whether you're a little person or a very tall person, you have all of the substance you will ever need right now, and that substance is awaiting the shaping and the forming and the manifestation through your thoughts. My oldest daughter was getting ready to go to the University of California, and we were filling out some of the forms. And she had grown up in Unity, so she knew all about these truth principles. But she had been awarded a number of scholarships that would be taking care of most of her tuition, books, and things at the university. And she had a University of California scholarship. But there was a place in the application that said, Mom, and she said to me, Mom, how much are we going to give to my education? And at that time, things weren't as opulent. And so I said, well, honey, just put down $500. And she said, well, where's it going to come from, Mom? And I said, it will come. You know that God is the source, and that will come at the right time, in the right place, and in the right way. Well, the week before she graduated, the phone rang. No, it was the week before she graduated, a letter came regarding scholarship. And I read the letter, and I was getting ready to respond to it when the telephone rang. And there was a gentleman on the line, and he said to me, my name was James at that particular time, and he said, Mrs. James, do you understand the scholarship letter did you receive a scholarship letter? And I said, yes. He says, do you understand the scholarship letter that you received? I said, yes, this is Janelle's scholarship to the university. And he says, no, that's not what it is. This is an alumni scholarship, in addition to the scholarship she has already been awarded. I said, oh? He said, yes. Another young lady had received a scholarship from another university, and so Janelle was next in line to receive this scholarship. And I said, oh, that's great. And he says, do you know how much it's for? And I said, no. He says, $500. Not $450, not $550, $500. So when you are open and receptive to your good, the infinite substance of the universe fills it. Use the ideas that come to you. Follow through on them. Remember that you can never be separated from your supply. You live in an abundant universe. You live in an omnipresent stream of substance that is amenable or shapeable by your thought, that can be transformed into any desire of your heart. So think of those needs of your life. Hold up that cup of thought to be shaped and filled by the infinite substance of God. God is a mighty stream of substance, and all of us are channels for its expression. Right here, right now. So let your thought be filled with the infinite substance of God in the shape and form that you desire. When? Now. God bless you.